Good afternoon, Antrim County. This is Veterans Voice Podcast with your hosts, Brandon, Matt, and Carrie, and special guest Ron Monroe from Mission 6 Service Dogs and Major.
There you go. There you go. I like it.
Yeah. We'll
So
go with that one.
How we doing?
Doing all right. It's Friday.
Ron, you had a heck of a drive all the way over here.
Yeah, you know what? It's alone time. Me and the dog.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a good drive up.
Yeah.
That's good.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And it was better than this morning. This morning was pretty darn foggy.
Was
I
it
coming from
foggy
Gaylord
and
anyways.
slow?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
By Lakes of the North there and everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's clear by
100%.
me.
It rained all day here yesterday.
Pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're ready for summer, let me tell you.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I walked past my garage this morning. You could hear my boat whining at me. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's time.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ready for that
definitely.
lake.
So, you can tell us a little bit more about Mission 6?
Hey, Brandon. Yeah, absolutely. Mission 6 Service Dogs is a program that we created about 5 years ago here in the tip of the mitt, northern Michigan. My background is that of military police canine in the Army. And I kind of avoided the whole veteran scene for 30 years. And I found that I had a real craving to get back with the veterans. There's a difference between us and them. Whatever that difference is, it's left me hungry. And so my wife and I closed the doors to our training program in about 2018, late 17, and decided we would focus entirely on veterans and service dogs.
Wow.
So that was the financially silliest thing I've ever done, but nothing's brought me more joy. So we bring dogs into our home. We train them, we raise them, we create a dog that we are super proud of. Mm-hmm. Then we bring them into the lives of veterans and use the military's training techniques and tactics. That's my piece of the military that I have to offer. So
Nice.
that offering comes with some pretty deep relationships. It's been a good run.
That's great.
Now, you said you were a dog handler in the Army?
I was, yeah,
pretty
back
cool.
in the 80s. Kind of a crazy story, just fun. Only a veteran's going to get this. So before cell phones, before the internet, we had typewriters. Have you ever seen a typewriter?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. I sat down in the barracks one night while I was in Stuttgart, in Germany on my first
Yeah.
tour. Had to be a Spec 4 to even be considered for dog school at the time, and I was a PFC.
Oh, wow.
About to go Spec 4, and I wrote 2 letters, one to the Department of Defense, to whom it may concern, and Department of the Army, to whom it may concern. I have no idea whoever got those letters. And right after that, I got a set of orders to Fort Benning, Georgia. Pretty disappointed. But hey, I didn't qualify. About 2 weeks behind that, a new set of orders sending me to dog school.
Nice.
That was life-changing. That was an absolute gift. I have never known who to say thank you to. So, yeah, just a piece of my background.
That's pretty cool.
That's pretty neat.
yeah.
And where was dog training school then for the Army?
That was and still remains today, I believe, at Lackland Air Force Base.
Is it really? Okay. Yeah, because
They-
we definitely had when I was in the Air Force, I remember they had security forces training there and they had the dogs. And
Yep. We actually, all branches use that same school.
okay. I didn't realize that.
Including some metropolitan services use the military school as well. When I went through the school, we had a guy they actually played ball for the Buffalo Bills with the Niagara Transit Authority.
Oh, wow.
Big boy. So they put him with a Malinois at the time, a Belgian.
Oh, yeah.
Big, stinky, mean ones.
That's pretty cool, though. Neat story.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you were in 1980s, you said?
I served, yes, I was in the 80s. So I served during peacetime. Did a tour as I mentioned, in Germany, and then got sent stateside. Went to school, and then off to Fort Bragg.
Okay.
What a hoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a different place. That's for sure.
85,000 people that age. on their
Wow.
own. Yeah, that's crazy.
That is kind of
Can't
crazy.
imagine.
So what all did you do there with, as a service dog handler?
We actually, nearly the entire force worked at nighttime only.
Okay.
Very few canine worked during the day. And we were just there for incidents if we had a sensitive equipment that goes down in a chopper, to secure the area. It was all entirely law enforcement. And search and rescue, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Just on the lookout for bad guys and had an extra tool on my side.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And then so you came on out, right?
Mm-hmm.
You from the area here originally, or?
Where am I from? Not sure how to answer that. As a young fellow, I was raised on the east end of the UP. Moved away from there, graduated high school in Onaway. So this tip of the mitt and the east end of the UP is a special place for me.
Okay.
Mission 6 Service Dogs has been focused almost entirely on the tip of the mitt.
Nice.
Since the change in the laws allowed us to do that back in 17. So,
That's pretty cool.
yeah.
And how long
Brings
you
me
been
home.
training dogs altogether?
Oh my, 35 years I
Okay.
think, since I ETS'd.
Okay.
And it went right into training dogs.
Okay, I
There
was
you go.
wondering.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, so you just liked it that much that you were like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, so,
That's cool.
before the service dog program, we trained from all over the Midwest. People just fly their dogs in, bring their dogs in, what have you. And I think it was more of a family counselor than a dog trainer.
Oh,
Yeah.
When mom and dad were pulling their hair out on, that decision to get a Dalmatian or whatever caused the problems. They would come in and I think it was more my job to convince them or to show them that creature could really serve them well and how to do that. So like I said, I think we brought more marriages back together than anything.
that's pretty cool, though.
That's a good thing, though.
And then they didn't have to give up a pet, which a lot of people, I feel like, kind of do that. Not necessarily a lot. I don't know how many people do that, but you see when people get frustrated with an animal, and they're like, I just can't.
They just want to
So-
give up on it.
So you just did regular training of pets to be in the home, not necessarily service training.
Absolutely, for
Okay,
decades. Yeah.
okay.
And those dogs are almost always 9 months. So if anyone's
Oh.
listening to this and their dog is about 9 months old, bear with it, man.
Oh, okay,
That's a
interesting.
difficult time.
Yeah, get a little mischievous around that age.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how would the program typically run? I know you mentioned that you guys would, train them up from a puppy so that way they're completely trained and ready to go and be, then paired or matched with a veteran. And I'm talking about the veteran specific at this point, once you moved into that theater. So yeah, tell me a little bit how the training, how that the program works, and maybe, where do you guys breed dogs there of a certain type, or do you look for dogs or get dogs donated, puppies or anything like that?
Yeah, no, cool questions. I think you could say my first goal is to create dog handlers. Until you have the training as a dog owner, you can't really become a handler. And taking these guys out into public and doing the things the service dogs need to do. Man, there's a lot of hazards out there. There are a lot of scary things that can happen.
Oh yeah.
And that dog needs to be rock solid in public. So, yes, we train the dogs ourselves, my wife and I for the time being. And we put months and months into every dog. When that dog becomes someone that we're proud of, when they become a dog that can be reliable, and then we introduce them to veterans.
Okay.
What we don't do is team them immediately. We let the veterans that come to us, they'll spend hundreds of hours with Mission 6, the veteran will.
Good.
I can't make you a handler overnight, but I can do it in 6 months. And so we spend a couple weekends a month together working with the dogs. And a veteran will work with many different dogs for a few
Okay.
reasons. That really rounds a handler's education. But it's during that time also that a dog, and you can see it and you can feel it, when a dog says, hey, I really like that dude, or I really like that gal.
Oh, that's
that
cool.
connection happens, and when things work out well and perfectly, that's kind of what it looks like.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like the fact of how you're talking about as far as training the handler and spending
Right.
that time, because you can't do that overnight.
No.
Yeah.
You know, or in having one session here or another session there. You know, that gives some kind of familiarity, but it doesn't really bring it home.
No, dog behaviors need to be deeply seated. And that's our job for the first 6 months that we have them, or 7 months. We take the default thinking of the dog, toss it out, and give it new default thinking, and that takes time. So to just go out and get a beautiful dog and assign it to a veteran and start training, you've done nothing with the default thinking of the dog. And I think that's a gift of this program, in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The dogs change before they go into service.
Okay.
When we trained from throughout the Midwest, just dogs, that was the one thing. You could come and get your dog after 2 weeks with us, and there were massive changes. A dog can learn tricks and behaviors very, very quickly, but it doesn't learn to think it differently in a 2 week time period. I could never offer that person who was paying me my dog at the end of their 2 weeks. Ours still stood very much out. And you know what? If I could spend 6 months and 8 months with a dog and it's next veteran, now we can have some fine animals.
That's interesting, though. Because, even obviously humans, we have that default thinking, too, and we need to work on changing it with an animal. Same with the animal. I think he knows we're talking about him, Major.
And I think too,
He's
like
like
the bonding process too, with the handler and the dog too, that's got to come in a lot of, like I know certain dogs just don't bond with certain people, does that ever happen?
That happens every day.
Does it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So this is really good then that you do what you guys do, the way that you do it.
So it's a reckless business plan, and it's difficult. And my wife and I, Diane, we travel at least 40 weekends a year that we're on the road with those dogs, going to events, going to fundraisers, going to veterans to do the training. And I forgot where I was going with your statement. I really liked what you
Sorry,
said.
I kind of the change in the behavior of the person and the dog.
Mm-hmm.
And that it's important.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
I don't know.
yeah. Again, it just goes back to that default thinking. When that
Yeah,
dog's with us
yeah.
long enough, they become ours. And then sometimes that switch over from our hands to someone else's hands, that's part of what takes many, many hours out in public. If this guy, Major, who's with us, he's a machine. He knows everything you want of him, and I think we could probably we can do some impressive stuff. But if I turn the leash over to you, it's a new ball game.
It's
you
a free for all kind of.
Yeah, there's no history, no relationship, no rapport has been built, and
Yeah.
he's gonna blow you off.
Yeah.
That
See,
makes
and he's
sense.
just over there chewing on his leg right now. Like,
So how many dogs do you guys have typically at the house, training at one period at a time?
Yeah, approximately too many.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, right now we have 4. My wife has a service animal.
okay.
I never had time to have my own service animal because I had yours. I had everybody else's dogs to
Right.
work with. And then Major come into my life.
Aw.
He was actually supposed to be part of the program and be
Okay.
assigned to another veteran, but he's a hard working. He's more like the dogs you saw in the field. If you saw dogs while you were in, just a hard charging beast. That's my kind of dog because I can
Yeah.
handle them, right?
Right.
But he's not a good dog for a veteran with PTSD or TBI.
I get
Okay.
you.
There comes a chaos, and I know this firsthand, and I'm guessing maybe y'all do. With PTSD comes a lot of chaos in the mind,
Yep.
and he would bring chaos into someone's life if they're not really good at working with him and handling him.
Okay.
Because he's going to fire up and respond on things that he comes across, things in the environment. And so I failed him and I kept him. Having PTSD from my service time as well, I
Right.
thought, hey, it's my turn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So usually 4 is a lot. So that means we have 2 dogs actively being trained.
Okay.
Been lucky lately. We have some folks that have come online who want to learn how to train dogs, and they want to help veterans as well. So we have some fosters that can be helping the dogs along. And Brandon, you had wondered about raising them.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if we bring a puppy in, a puppy's at least 2 years from going into service.
Wow.
So we're out looking for year-old, year-and-a-half-old, even 2.5-year-old dogs that we think we can manipulate that default thinking on,
Yeah.
Okay.
and we bring them in.
So you don't get them when they're new, like little puppies. You get them at that age then?
I do.
Instead? Okay.
I do, but you know what? You know a dog that's a year-and-a-half old. You know what you have. You meet a 4-month-old pup.
Yeah,
you
that's
have no
true.
idea when
Good point.
Yeah.
hormones kick in and things like that, and the dog is going to change so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and the old dogs and new tricks thing is kind of baloney. You can take a 2-year-old dog and do wonders with them.
Yeah. Right.
So if there's any veterans out there, and let's say they have a dog that is about 1 year old or anything like that, would they be able to come to you with that dog and say, I want to train with this dog to become, or help them become in themselves a handler? And
Yeah, cool. Thanks for asking that, because that's a big deal. I have so many veterans that call me. They run out, they buy a dog, they spend a couple of weeks with it, and then they call me and say, hey, can you train my dog? I can't do that. If I can't change your dog's default thinking unless he's in my home. And to be in my home, we're going to put in those 6 months 10,000 miles on the highway, and we're going to be in dangerous places. We're going to be out and dangerous to the health of a dog. I mean, we have to teach that dog to be off leash and follow commands, and in public where there are people who don't always cooperate the way they should.
Yeah.
And if something happens to your dog under my care,
That's a
this
liability.
program wouldn't last very long.
Right.
You know what? Going back into being a military dog handler, we worked like a Dickens going through school, and it was very exciting when I got to meet our first dog. And that dog was like I'm not sure how I want to say this right now. It was an amazing moment to be gifted a well-trained dog. And I will never forget that first dog, or either of my dogs, but especially that first one, because he was magnificent. Already, I didn't have to go through, the struggles the trainers do.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to share when I can.
All right. We're back.
all right. So yeah, can't really take that risk.
No. Like as I said, especially with a service dog, there's a massive
Yeah.
connection there. And if I were to
Such
do
a
some,
sensitive thing.
if something happened with someone else's dog,
Yeah.
you'd never forgive me. And then that's the story that gets shared.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
We were broad-sided and had nothing to do with, for example, an accident.
Right.
So we just avoid that.
Right.
Sometimes we have losses. We have dogs whose health, fails us, or their minds
Yeah.
fail us, or whatever the case is. But that's my loss, and not yours. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
we avoid that risk.
That makes total sense.
So with all that being said, like in order to, qualify for the program, how does that run?
So, actually, this answer is really important to me to share, so thanks for that. Back in 2017, the state legislature, and I promise I won't say anything too positive about the state legislature after this, but they passed the service dog laws here in Michigan, and they changed them. By the Americans with Disabilities Act, it is very unclear, and certainly was then, how PTSD played out in qualifying for a service animal. I'm not going to belabor this, but the definitions that they use is to qualify, you have to be disabled, and the definition of disabled is substantially limited from a major life function.
Oh.
Yeah, flush that.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what that is. Or everybody knows that they qualify. Right? So the state legislature drafted and passed a new definition. Anyone who is a veteran with PTSD or TBI qualify. We don't need
That's
10%.
simple.
We don't need 40%. We don't need 100. You have a diagnosis. You qualify for a
Even
dog.
if you're not rated
And that
for a
has
disability?
nothing to do with
Okay.
the VA whatsoever.
because that's important for
Yeah.
our audience to know, especially too.
Yeah.
That's good
Yeah.
because I had no idea
Mm-hmm.
about any of this.
Yeah. Now, how does that play out when you leave Michigan and you visit another state? That's outside of my zone.
Right.
But and that's actually what started the program. I had an amazing dog at the time, Max, Czechoslovakian Shepherd. Actually looked a lot like Major.
Yeah.
And when I realized that they were passing that law, especially being a veteran with PTSD, I looked at that and I said, dude, we can jump through this hurdle right now
Yeah.
and serve PTSD and TBI, which were kind of taboo at the time. At least felt like taboo to me.
Oh, yeah.
No one can question.
yeah.
When we go forward now with a veteran, and they obviously fit that definition, and no one can ever question it. And if it were questioned, we win.
Right.
Right.
You know, because we meet so many people downtown in the box stores
Right.
that have dogs, and in conversation you find out that they're I don't know how to say this without coming off kind of harsh, but
Yeah.
you know, their anxiety doesn't really seem to stack up against a veteran's PTSD for me, and so that's questionable. This is not.
right.
Right.
It's defined and it's very solid. That's what we need. Very
Moral-
clear for.
Morally, legally, and ethically, we're there then, you know?
That's
It's
awesome.
great.
Yeah.
It's really, really awesome though.
Okay. And yeah, absolutely. So that's how we define it as a state qualifier for the service dog and the program itself. If somebody wanted to, be sourced with a dog in your program, how would they go about that?
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll share a phone number and
Okay.
a way to connect, as part of the podcast. If somebody thinks that this may be a good thing for them, we'll just get together. We'll put our feet up, we'll drink coffee, and talk about how Mission 6 service dogs might be able to help. Last thing I want to do is waste anyone's time. So if I can learn a little bit about you, you can certainly learn lots about us. And if it looks like a good thing, we start. And there's no commitment to that start. You want to come hang out with the guys. So most every dog and handler that we've worked with, we see every week, every 2 weeks, something like that. They
Okay.
follow us. They come with us. They want to pay it forward. So that's a chance for a new guy or a new gal to see who we are and what we do,
Yeah.
and see those relationships in action and see that work. And
That's pretty cool to be able to keep that continuity and be able to check in and see and, build those relationships and maintain those going forward. That's pretty awesome.
I
Yeah.
didn't see that coming
Yeah.
in the program. I didn't see the community that was going to build.
I bet.
And man, it's cool. So a couple of weeks ago, all the guys contacted me, and I say guys because we have one gal that we've worked with, and she moved to Wisconsin, so that just works out that way right now. So our female veterans, call me.
Yeah.
Anyway, they called after the ice storm, and we spent quite a bit of time up in the Petoskey area. Mission 6 got together. We had dogs. We had people all over the place, from young to old, cleaning yards for disabled veterans.
That's so
That's
cool.
cool.
Clean up from
Nice.
that. Didn't see that coming. I didn't know that these guys and gals were going to get their dogs and stay with the program. But how helpful that is, because we use their dogs in the training with the new vets too.
Oh, cool.
That's
really awesome.
a
Yeah.
nice unintended consequence right there.
Community.
That's great.
It's a big deal.
That camaraderie too that you get from, military. It is different.
So we train in groups often, at least for most of the training. And I didn't start out that way. It was my goal was to spend all one-on-one time with every veteran. And just out of necessity, 2 years ago, we spent some time in the yard, and we had 5 veterans that were working with us at the time. And they all worked dogs. They did it together, one after another. And at the end, every one of those veterans came to us and said, dude, that's what we want right there. Because they were challenged by one another.
Yeah.
They had to get out and do it or be embarrassed. And every one of them wanted to shine just a little bit more than the one before. As they're, whether they're healing or they're, doing hand commands or whatever the case might be that they're working on. And that really was meaningful to me.
That's cool.
Yeah, this program sounds really great. Like, you don't hear much about, it seems almost like they're elusive, the service dog programs, or there's just not any like this, or people don't know. People ask about it, but
It's not as comprehensive like the
Yeah.
ones that we've seen before. Seems kind of like a run through, you know what I mean? Where you're actually taking the time, you're investing, in these dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Your time and everything else.
Yeah. And I'll point out, too, that we can't do it alone. We've never been able to do it alone. Every dog that comes into our care gets fully vetted, whether they go through the program or not. We're not taking on a rescue and then turning it loose as a failure that has Lyme disease because we didn't treat it, or whatever the case may be. So, and often 2 out of 3 dogs fail. At least half of our
Wow.
dogs fail. So we have thousands into them before they ever even think about meeting a veteran. And I can't do that. I'm a one-income family.
Right.
I've been, employed for way too many years. It's time for me to retire. But I can't afford to do that. And then the travel, we usually travel in a bus. There are so many expenses. I may have mentioned it's a terrible business plan. But we're able to do that.
Yeah.
Because it's the best result for our veterans, and the community comes together and helps us do it.
Right.
Then we've had, one of your previous guests was a member of ABATE, if I remember
Nicole.
listening.
yeah, Nicole, I was wondering if it was her. 'Cause
Yeah.
I was thinking of her to have her.
I know. I was kind of
Yeah.
new too.
Well, so that motorcycle, and this is the reason I bring it up. We get help from all over the place. I mean, you can't make it up. But what she had mentioned that on the podcast, and as she's talking about ABATE, I'm thinking about the Marines, the Leathernecks, that the Leatherneck Motorcycle Club
Yeah.
that came alongside us immediately when we first started.
Oh.
Right here in Michigan.
That's
we had
great,
a couple
yeah.
of chapters. They gave us so much confidence in doing what we're doing.
It's good.
Yeah.
And financial support.
Oh, good.
And we've grown since then, but only because they came behind us, or came up with us, and really offered a lot of help.
That's a good
and
organization
encouragement.
too.
Yeah.
They rock.
I love Leathernecks. It's like one of my favorite MCs because they're just so known. Every inch a square in the United States, everybody knows
Yeah.
who they are.
Heard a lot
and they
about
give
'em.
back a lot. So
So I can tell you as a recipient of that fund, those funds, that was really humbling for me, because every penny they ever donated to this program or towards a dog or a sponsorship of a veteran, I watched that money because we were with them, and it was out of their pocket. It wasn't from a bake sale that someone put on, or a spaghetti dinner or whatever. These guys would come together at the club and they would just do something every time we were together, and the money was coming out of their own pockets. That almost,
Wow.
I got really uncomfortable with that.
Yeah.
They're awesome, but Mission 6 Service Dogs does not have the goal of taking money from a veteran. We don't. One element that needed to be taken off the table right away when we started was that we're not selling service dogs.
Right.
Somebody else can do that. Lots of people do that. I want the community, because the community is there to support a veteran with PTSD that needs a dog. I guarantee you, God has shown us that.
Yeah.
And so we just need to reach out to the community for each and every veteran until somebody eventually might come along one day and say, hey, I got your back. We're going to pay for this.
Yeah.
Till then, it's amazing. I'm actually a believer that there are some fine people left in America after
Oh, yeah.
a few years with this program.
Yeah.
I don't know. Could you all agree?
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes it's
Oh,
not easy to
definitely.
love the world.
It's hard sometimes.
Yeah.
It really is.
It is very hard. And, and it has been for me for a lot of years. But these beautiful people show up in our lives and make it happen. That's really encouraging.
Things
Yeah.
happen for a reason.
It feels
They
like
do.
you're doing the right thing when that kind of thing happens.
Yeah.
That way.
Yeah. Not to go deep in faith, but we run this thing on God.
Yeah.
And my wife and I can actually chuckle at one another. Sometimes we have to do the dumbest darn things and invest where we have no guarantees. But we just say, hey, God, you got this. And
Yeah.
he's come through every time. So it's kind of fun to be able to throw your future out there, close your eyes, and know it's coming back.
Yeah.
My real life has never operated that way, and this is becoming my real life, so it's kind of exciting.
That's cool though, and you're doing something you love too.
Yeah.
Right on.
And you're using. It's cool too that you're using your skills that you learned from the Department of Defense, and have put it into life. You know what I mean? I wish I
Yeah.
could say that. I'm a steel worker and I don't weld, but I never really liked it. I never loved it. I never had that passion. So.
But you're
And
living.
the impact that you're having on other veterans,
Yeah.
that in betterment that you're causing in another person's life, that's huge. That's absolutely amazing.
I'd
That's
love
dope.
to tell you some of those stories.
Mm-hmm.
You ever watched a 59-year-old man cry?
Possibly.
Not too often.
Uncomfortably. So uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right. And again, I don't put that on. It's not me. It's not my wife. It's not. It's the team and the work.
No.
And the fact that you're doing something so great, it just comes back. And it's like you're living your life the way you want to, even if, you talked about not being able to quit, but do you want to? Like, this is what you do. You're living, so.
It almost feels like freedom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you may mention that, when somebody enters the program and during the training, they're spending the weekend with you guys typically to go through the handler piece and then training and the signals and commands and all that, right? How does that look? Like, how does that work?
What does the training look like?
Yeah, like, are they... so if they live on Petoskey, but the training's down there in your area, are they staying over at y'all's place, or do they have to get a hotel room? Is it a 9 to 5 and then come back next day kind of thing? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So most of the winter, this past winter, we were gifted by the Little Traverse Bay Humane Society with a building. They have a building that was absolutely perfect for dog training, including the rubberized
Nice.
flooring. But it was a building that at the time was access to them. And most of our veterans are in the tip of the mitt. We would jump in the vehicle, grab the dogs, and spend 2 or 3 hours together on a Saturday. There's only so much you
They can deal with,
Yeah.
yeah.
at a time.
That makes sense.
Yeah. We do that 2 or 3 times a month. We would drive up and we'd use that building for the 2 or 3 hours, and it was great. With the ice storm and the fundraising and the generous hands that are out there, that actually they had to end that arrangement. They have to use it for storage because the dog food and things like that are being given and gifted to them overwhelm. I won't say overwhelm them. It's a blessing.
Yeah.
So I meet tomorrow with the West Michigan Veterans Ranch down in Fremont.
Oh, okay.
And that they have a facility they're building now, including a campground and mini cabins and things like
Really?
that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Heck yeah.
So what does that look like? You know what? Maybe that looks like we can have 4 or 5 veterans spend long weekends with us,
Right.
and we can get a dog moved into the hands of a veteran much more quickly
Yeah.
than when we're meeting on weekends for a couple of hours. That might turn out to be what they have is actually my dream. I want to be able to bring these veterans into our care on a shoreline with mini cabins and a pole barn, and just
Yeah.
spend our time doing our thing.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. It sounds fun.
Yeah, so I haven't accomplished that yet, but that's coming. And the West Michigan Veteran Ranch might just help us see the value of that.
That's crazy.
Yeah. We'll have to find them too. I've not heard of that one. That organization. Have you guys?
No,
No, not
I'm
at
actually
all.
kind of curious about it.
Yeah.
I am too.
I would say they're new. I don't know their entire history, but it's taken them a few years to get, as I understand it, to get this thing up and off the ground.
Okay.
But I'm pretty excited that they're making headway.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
have some infrastructure that's incomplete, so far. But there's almost, in talking with some of the board members, it sounds like this might be the pivotal year that they launch. So it's kind of cool.
Heck
Yeah,
And
definitely.
that is definitely
It's pretty exciting.
is being built. The founder is a veteran as well. So
Okay. That's really.
again, that's maybe another veteran who found a way to be free and
Yeah.
serve the ones he wants to serve.
Yeah.
It's like the American dream right there.
Yeah,
And have you heard of Bravehearts Ranch?
I have.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was just thinking like that's a place where veterans can stay, and it's kind of at that midpoint maybe, or it's up by what is it, Lansing?
Pelston.
Pelston.
Yeah, Pelston area. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful place too.
Yeah, it is.
We've been there attending their events.
Okay.
They're we haven't had a lot to do with them yet. It's Operation Injured Soldier. That's
It
a
is.
little bit unique to tie in with, but
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
All these organizations are really helpful though. Yeah, but it's nice that you found those. We're gonna have to look those guys up. The West Michigan
Veteran
Ranch. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
I'm all like trying to look myself right now.
Yeah. Look
oh,
it
yeah,
up.
you're looking to
Look
see
it up
what's
on your
up.
phone.
I mean, I like
So-
the concept.
Yeah.
Wait,
So how many people have you, since you've gotten into providing service dogs or training service dogs and stuff like that, worked with? And I know it's going to be a rough number, so don't give me expect like I'm going to audit you or anything. And then how many follow-ons? I mean, once they've, the dog's been trained, the handler's been trained, and they've kept with the program to help maintain that group and that community,
Mm-hmm. Well, there are probably, and I'd have to count them up. I think there's in the neighborhood of 15 right here in the tip of the mitt that we've worked with that have dogs in their rocking, and that's not a great big number. But you know what? What we're doing, I could never achieve big numbers.
Right.
That would be wonderful if we could, but it'll never happen. I don't think so anyhow. There's just not a mechanism that can, to be able to share my background, I have to do that kind of slowly,
right.
Well,
with-
quality takes work too.
yeah, yeah, it really does.
Just impacting one life, making that difference in one life. And you hear you've done it in 15. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, again, that's not just me. Yeah, that's my wife. There were 4 of us. We've had some changes in the way we manage things, but certainly that other couple, changed lives. But we have a family, just a fun story, a family in Petoskey that has adopted us as their reason, maybe. And I won't use names, but the mother, kind of the matriarch of the bunch, has taught her kids, her adult children, the value of giving to a nonprofit or a cause or something like that. And So that couple, their adult children and their grandkids, they're with us all the time.
Oh, wow.
And a
cool.
couple, especially or significantly, spend a lot of time with us. And I can't do things without them.
Right.
Wow.
There's much I can't do without them. So, again, that's part of that community.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
That's
yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's really cool how you're doing it. I mean,
Definitely.
My experience with service dog training and stuff like that, typically you go to the organization, they pair you up, with a younger dog, and then you just kind of work the program once a month or something like that until, designated amount of time. And whether or not the fit is there, or the training is adequate, and I'm not talking bad about anybody. It's just it's more like a put on as a timetable versus the bond and the connection and the understanding of the disabilities and the need of the veteran and the need of the dog, all in one.
So I got a phone call here about 6 months ago. Broke my heart. It was a veteran about your age, with a young family, and he says, I have a dog. It's supposed to be a service dog. He was working with a different organization altogether. And he said, I hate my dog.
Oh.
I'm like, dude, how do you hate a dog? He says, no, man. I mean, this dog is mean, and there were a lot of reasons. But that was the dog, untrained, that was put into his life.
Yeah.
And then I guess what was expected is the changes would come over time and work. He will never overcome that emotion.
Yeah.
That I don't think there's a magic pill that will get a mind over that dislike.
Yeah.
Right.
And I didn't have a clue what to tell him. What do you do?
Yeah.
Close your heart, take it to the pound, and start all over? I don't know.
Right.
Because the other organization had left him cold, and they weren't working with him or whatever. I don't know the ins and the outs of the story, but I pray that won't happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. It's just like anything else, right? If the situation isn't right or done right, or you can cause harm.
Yeah. Well said.
So the way you're going about it, and the fact that you're spending that time and helping build those bonds and watching the connection happen, I mean, that's really awesome. That's great. Can't say enough about it.
Well, I'd have to invite you all to come along sometime.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, we should.
I'm game.
I threw the challenge out. There was a conference down at Grand Valley State a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, yeah?
I had the chance to speak in front of many of the VSOs from all the different counties. I put the challenge out.
MACVC?
Yes.
You were
That's,
there?
yeah,
Okay.
that's board members.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I put the challenge out that I thought it was time for a service dog in every county office. So we'll see where that goes.
I like
Y'all
that
need
challenge.
to know.
Wink,
That'd be
wink,
cool.
boss.
I have no problem bringing a dog here. We already know that.
Yeah, we love our dogs.
We like Major, too.
He's got the coolest
like
little
have him in
personality.
here.
He comes in here and he's like, he owns
Yeah.
the room, but not in a bad way. You know what I mean? He owns the room like he's
like
just
him.
excited
Yeah.
to see what's going on. And you
Yeah.
can tell he's working, but
Yep, he's paying attention to every sound out there. I can see him perk up.
well, those squeaky doors probably driving him
Yeah.
nuts right now.
Yeah. Drives us nuts.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think I shared the story of Major before we went on air. Was that right? Why he's
Of
mine?
how-
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
did
No,
you
you
do it
shared
on
it
air?
before. On air,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
on air, yeah.
Was that on air? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so, even
Yeah.
a guy that would otherwise be a failure can be an awesome animal.
Oh,
true.
yeah.
And, yeah, so we actually have need for people to take dogs that fail out of the program for various reasons.
Okay.
I don't really want a waiting list. I don't want to manage a waiting list, but someone to stay close to us, contact with us, watch Facebook, and let yourself be known when you see that we might have a failure. Because dogs fail out for the dumbest things.
Right.
Maybe they just shake and get worried in public. Well, that can't be a service animal.
No.
It can be amazing in every other way.
Right.
And it's pretty important to us where that dog goes.
Yeah.
Well, it's a lot.
It's not easy to get a dog from us, but somebody gets lucky every time we have a failure. So
That's cool. I don't know. You guys are a nonprofit, so do you guys have something set up on your Facebook or anything else for like donations in case somebody would like to help out or stuff like that?
Yeah, well, we did. We did. I have a Venmo right now because of the changes in the organizational structure.
Oh, okay.
We dropped a number of things and need to rebuild them.
Okay.
So currently, not so much, other than Venmo or get in touch with us.
Okay.
Otherwise, that's coming back, hopefully over the next several months or so.
All right.
So
Thank you.
try to make myself easily found.
We'll have to make your information known so that if people want to donate, we'll attach it to this podcast.
Or even get in touch with you, period.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and whether or not they want a dog or not, or if they just want to be a part of the program, who knows? Maybe there's somebody out there listening that knows of an area that can be permanently, a good spot to train dogs or house, you guys or something to that effect. I don't know. But any way to help, is always certainly welcome. And the conversation only begins by getting the information out there.
Right on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Ron, I can't thank you enough for coming in and describing the program and getting to meet you and Major. Keep it going, man.
Yeah.
Keep it going. You're doing great. And when I say you, it's not just you. I know we've said that a couple times.
Right on.
But the entire program, like I said, you change one life, you have that kind of impact on one life, let alone 15 lives. You've done something. You've done something.
So when that becomes 50 lives, we'll really celebrate. But till then, we'll just keep the hoe in the ground, so to speak.
Keep moving forward.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
But I really appreciate talking with you guys.
Yeah. This
Been
is
good
awesome.
to get to know you a little bit.
Yeah. Thanks for coming to the office,
Thank
too.
you.
It was great to face and name and everything,
Yeah.
So if anybody needs to get a hold of us, you can find us on Facebook, Mission 6 Service Dogs. Look for the page, not a group. I have a group I need to delete. I don't like
Okay.
Yeah, I gotcha.
only because it's not as active. The page is very much more active.
Okay.
And look us up on Facebook. We have a new website that's coming. It's not there yet. Or give me a call. Again, my name is Ron, 231-250-2407.
Okay.
I will put my feet up and we'll talk.
And we'll share it on our Facebook page too, so people can link.
Yeah, and if you got any
See
events
you.
coming up, too, let us know. We'll post
Yeah.
flyers for you and get the word out, too.
Yeah.
Right now.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Ron.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thanks a lot, Antrim County, for listening, and we'll see you next week.